Welcome to the KernOcast podcast. I'm Lewis Pauling, and we are back to normal, which is great. Got the special out of the way, which took a little longer than I expected, but it's all good. I hope you found that interesting. This week on the show, I have Karen Oldham-Waring, who runs a company called Sunflower Training and Consultancy, which mostly is designed around teaching people about mental health and how to support people with mental health. She's worked with Devon and Cornwall Police, and she has a lot of knowledge around this area, working in this environment for a very long time. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I open up quite a bit about some troubles that I've had in the past, and some things that I might be going through, that I'm going through now. So hopefully that helps you as a listener to be aware and be happy enough to open up about your troubles too. You can find Karen and Sunflower Training and Consultancy at www.sunflowertraining.co.uk. This week's featured music is by a band called Tru Collision from Sonostal, and the track is called Get Crazy With Me Tonight. You can find them at their website, which is trucollision.com, and also on Facebook and YouTube. So go and check them out by searching Tru Collision, and I'll post all those links in the description. This conversation was recorded at the Weavers in Bodmin, so a massive thanks to them for allowing us to record there, and go down there and check out their Sonostal Brewery pub. It's a great place, they do a great job, they've got some decent food down there too. So yeah, massive thanks to them. And thank you guys for listening and watching. As you know, you can find this on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher and YouTube in video form. So I'm all there. And then I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you can search for me if you want to maybe have a podcast yourself and talk about anything in particular. Then that's great. Find me and get hold of me through any of those channels, and also on my email address, which is kernocast@gmail.com. So without further ado, we'll get into the music by Tru Collision, and then we'll have the conversation with Karen. Welcome to the KernOcast. I'm Lewis Pauling, and my guest today is Karen Oldham-Waring from Sunflower Training and Consultancy. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Hello to you.
Yeah, thank you. It's great that you're here and meeting me in the Weavers in Bodmin. And so, Sunflower Training and Consultancy. Let's start with that. What is it all about? And
okay, we've been going for nearly 3 years now,
yeah.
And my particular history is NHS and council, but always with a theme of mental health and mental health promotion. So we have always been involved with project management around mental ill health, and that work involves public health and health promotion. So it's all about getting the message out there that we need to remove stigma around mental ill health, get more people to talk about what's going on with them, and not being afraid to do that, and about educating other people that if there is mental ill health around, it's not the end of the world. You know, you're not going to melt, no one's going to have a massive fit in front of you. Just like everyone has a cold, people will have low mood, some people's low mood will get worse into depression, chemical imbalance, or more severe end of the spectrum with schizophrenia, things that you might be admitted into hospital with, but that's the other end of the scale. So we're just about bringing it into the conversation and getting people to talk about it.
Okay, brilliant. How do you go about that then within your business? How does it become? How does it work?
Yeah, so Sunflower started really because I used to deliver training with organisations, and that training was around mental distress first aid. There's a lot of that around now, and it's crucial to have people in your organisation that are trained first aiders physically and mentally for emotional support. We also do stress reduction, building resilience, safeguarding training. So we're about workforce training and getting organisations and directors of those organisations to realise you look after your staff, you train them, you encourage them to talk about how they're feeling, make it a safe environment, you encourage people to take action when something's wrong and support that as well. That makes for a happy workforce, higher productivity, higher retention, people stay because they feel valued. So that's what we're about. Sunflower is about getting people to remember that they enjoyed that job in the first place, they chose to take that job, and have some work-life balance.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds great. It's definitely something that a lot of companies are looking to include within their business and organisations and the culture of their organisations as well, because it's such. I think in the last few years it has been such a major thing of realising that hold on, your staff are the most important thing in your business, and I think there was. I mean, back probably. Before I really started in the workforce, or probably when I started working, it always still felt like it's just this is the productivity, this is what you got to get done, and I don't care about how you feel about it. This is what it needs to get done. But I think things are changing in that respect.
I think they need to as well. And if you get work, that's quite repetitive, factory work, for example, conveyor belt work, anything that has that repetitive element to it, people can very easily zone out. So then it's about, well, how do I make this job more interesting to my staff? How do I make them want to stay and keep coming back and doing this? And that's about what happens in between work. So what provisions do they have for staff at break time, at lunchtime? Is there a workplace health group? Do we do something as a group afterwards? And actually valuing them and rewarding them in some way, and not just monetarily, but just with thanks very much for that today. I mean, that goes a long way. You can have the worst day ever, and then on your way out, if someone says, oh, by the way, do you know what, thanks for that, you can let go of a lot of that was really bad. So that recognition.
Yeah, definitely. And I forgot the word I was going to use, but it probably was recognition, like respect for what you've managed to get done in that daytime.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So what sort of do you run sort of coaching things and programs?
It's training programs, yeah. So what tends to happen, what's happened so far is organisations will invite us in, we'll look at what training package they need, and very often it's a certain amount of days doing stress reduction for managers. Their managers get a slightly different session because they have to manage their own stress levels and that of their staff. Yeah. Then we do workforce stress management, and then perhaps they'll bring on, if it's a large organisation, they'll train maybe 12 to 16 mental distress first aiders. So everybody knows that if I've got an emotional problem I need to talk about, that's who I go to, and it's a named person, just like your health and safety rep or your first aid rep. So we go into organisations, we do packages like that, and eventually, well, in fact, quite soon, what we'd like to do is just run daily courses that people can book on.
Okay, yeah.
So we'll run a booking system, and they'll happen all around the southwest area, and people can just put their name down, but that's just around me finding venues first, and securing that.
Oh, brilliant! So you just mentioned like Southwest. You don't just all over the Southwest. Generally?
And also right around the Midlands.
Flipping hell! It's a lot bigger than I anticipated.
Yeah,
it's very impressive, mate, to get to that sort of level after only 3 years or something. That's great. How many people have you got in your team?
That would be me.
Just you?
It's just me.
Wow.
My husband's, I guess you could call him a silent partner, is a non-executive, so he helps me a lot with the research when we develop new programs. his back room, because he's got a full-time job, which is hugely important to us, but he's got a massive interest in the business, so if we're doing pictures, if we're doing promotional items, he's along with me. But in terms of delivery, that's just down to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed. That was great. It's amazing how you managed to cover that sort of ground and deliver these seminars and programs and stuff.
And we do seminars. Very often I'm invited to do a speaker slot or run a workshop during a conference event, and the latest one I did was with head teachers, because naturally stress is prevalent within the teaching industry.
Right, yeah.
And it's not, I think most of them would like to be able to just teach without having to think about all the red tape involved, the protocols involved, the policies, the extra work that government sends through, then Ofsted coming in, which is, I recognise it's all very important, absolutely, but I think they went into this business to teach, and they can't just teach anymore. Yeah, so it's similar in the sort of, I think, in the police force, for example, they have a similar feeling, I believe. I mean, I'm not 100%, it's just a few people have mentioned to me before, they went into, help the community and keep the community safe, and then they find that they're spending more time at a desk writing I believe
paperwork
so.
out.
And just talking of the police, actually, before I set up Sunflower, I did a lot of work with the police, delivering the mental distress first aid to the 999 and 101 call handlers for Devon and Cornwall police, and that was it took a long time to get through them all, but they get so many, I guess respectfully you would call them inappropriate calls, in that people are ringing up in distress and saying, you've got to help me, I'm going to kill myself if you don't do something, and that's not their call, is it? It's an emergency, but not for them. But I think part of it is because, well, hang on, what number do we know the most? Do we all know? Samaritans are the people I would say go to, but that's not a number that trips off everybody's tongue.
That's right.
Whereas it's just like, who helps people? The police.
Yeah, if you're in a panic situation,
absolutely.
You just get. I mean, that's why 999 and 111 are so great in that respect, because you can't forget them. It's just they're always there, and if you're in that sort of state of mind, then I can understand why. So that you sort of helped them be able to sort of calm people down on the phone, I suppose?
So the mental distress first aid is it's an intervention, it's a term, it's an intervention skill. So if for example we were having this conversation and you started to talk to me about things that were going on in your life, and I'm aware enough to think, this doesn't sound good, and then perhaps you're using terminology like, I've had enough, I can't do it anymore, or I'm going to just jack it all in. I would then become more aware of this is serious. And then perhaps I would say to you, okay, are you talking about suicide here, Lewis? You would then perhaps answer yes. If so, I would then go into my intervention. So it's a step-by-step intervention, which literally is about keeping you safe right now. I'm not going to be your counsellor, I'm not going to be your therapist, I'm not with you for the rest of your life, because it's not healthy for either of us to rely on each other. But what I will do is I'll keep you safe, help and support you with what you need to get out of this, and I will move you on to a secondary help before I back away. And that's what the intervention does. So just like normal first aid, where it's an ABC, your airway, breathing, circulation, I'm doing that with emotions and keeping you safe. And it might be that I'm using resources like, how long can you keep safe for? Who can keep you safe? Where can I get you to before I leave? And then make an appointment with your GP, and then I will come back to you and say, how did it go? And that just kind of finish that intervention, that circle. Exactly. Wow. So that's what the first aid intervention skill is. So I delivered that to the 101 and 909s. But like I said, that was when I was with Public Health. However, it's a very similar model I use now with Sunflower.
So how did you get into becoming sort of a consultant and training in this training and consultancy side of things? Did you start by being involved with mental health beforehand?
It was a really unusual route I took. So way back in the 90s, I got a job with mental health services in the northwest of England, Barrow-in-Furness, no less, where they used to have an advert in Barrow about with Chewits.
Oh yeah, okay.
Years ago, anyone remember that? It's a Chewit advert. Anyway, they build ships.
Right.
For the Navy, and I was living there, and I had a job on a mental health ward, and I'd already trained as a sports scientist, so I was brought into the gym on the ward to help patients get up and come into the gym, use exercise as a therapy. So it might just help them perhaps lower their medication. And so that was just a 3-day week thing. It then grew very quickly, this gym, and we became full-time in the community. We took the stigma away from the mental health ward, went into the community, and then invited referrals from GPs, from the prison service, so ex-offenders, people with very basic physical problems, but that they were significant enough that it was affecting their mental well-being because they were in pain and stuck at home and out of work, which are key things.
Couldn't get out of the house almost.
Exactly. So they would come to a very safe environment with trained instructors. They would then work out with exercise and feel better. And that whole concept of the endorphins, serotonin, these feel-good hormones that are released, people started to get better very quickly. We then started training volunteers to go through the gym as a gym buddy, and then into employment. And we realised that what we had here was it was much bigger than any of us. And we won an NHS NIBEVN award actually for it. Wow. Yeah. For just rehabilitation. So that was me within mental health system then, learning. And then I'm not a trained nurse, but since '98 I've been trained within mental health services and with public health courses, become a trained trainer. I've got so many courses now under my belt that it's allowed me to have a broader training program that I can deliver.
Oh, fantastic.
So that's how so it's a long way around.
Yeah. But it's all led to you being able to do what you do now.
Exactly.
That's
yeah.
Right. It all adds up.
I didn't ever start thinking I'm going to be a trainer. I started out as going to be a fitness instructor, which I did for a little bit, and then went into the mental health side and thought, whoa, this is important stuff. Yeah, this matters.
Yeah. Wow. I commend you for going down that route. It's a I can imagine it being quite a daunting area of work to go into, because you are generally, I can imagine, dealing with quite vulnerable people a lot of the time in some respects.
Absolutely. And I think with something like that, people have to be careful that they don't become too jaded for doing it for too long. And I think at one point I was running the risk of becoming a little bit, I'm going to be completely honest, feeling a little bit tired of everybody's sadness. But this, I'm talking about 8 years down the line here of 5 days a week, and it wasn't that I was unsympathetic, or it was just I was full. I was full, and I needed to no longer deal with clients firsthand. I needed to help the people.
Yeah.
So take a step back and train the people to work
deliver,
with the clients.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, you imagine it's similar to being in any sort of health service or police or whatever. There's a certain there's almost like a certain limit, or the military, for example.
Compassion fatigue.
Yeah. I suppose that must be what
it is.
Called,
It's battle fatigue, compassion fatigue, emotional fatigue, and I think it's natural and it's human. And I think any good manager really would be saying, let's rotate people around. And actually going back to your to the work I was referring to that's quite repetitive, there's something around rotation. I know people like what they know, and this is what I do, but there is some challenge in putting yourself out your comfort zone, and some challenge in saying, okay, just to have a change of scenery now, we're just going to swap it around, do something else, and that's what people need, and I should have done it sooner.
Yeah, well, do you know, it's interesting you brought that up, because I actually when I ran a little department in a factory that I worked at, I was running this department, and I was pretty much running around like a headless chicken to do everything, and everybody else in the team, I think there was about 7 of us in all, and everyone else was sort of just doing their packing bits and doing their little jobs, and I knew that I had some talented people in my team like that were willing to step up and do other bits. So what I started to do was I would then to train up these people, I would go and pack for the whole day, and I would leave them in charge of certain aspects. And there were some people that didn't actually want to go and do these other jobs, but I made sure that I said, don't worry about it, go and do it. You know, it's not that difficult. Even if it's just a day, and I just show you, see how you feel about it. Because I wanted my team to be multi-skilled.
Good for you.
And I think it made a real impact, because actually one of the people that I ended up training a lot of people in that department, and a lot of them left because it was quite a stressful job. I somehow managed to do it for months, and but one of the guys ended up going, a Polish chap, he ended up going on and doing some, like, going up, I think he's a manager now.
Fantastic.
So it was, you know, leading him into those things, and he was a great employee, and everybody in that team were really good, and there were, and just giving people that, taking them away from that repetitiveness. And a lot of people, as a manager or a team leader, for example, they're doing their job of, you know, making sure the paperwork's filled out and all these bits and bobs, and they kind of feel like, I don't want to stand there and pack, like doing the boring repetitive job. But I think you don't have to do it all the time. You can decide, but you can just even if just to give yourself a bit of variety as well.
And I think what it does for your team is it shows you're able to muck in, and I think that's so important, because I think when you become management at any level, it's a thankless task, and people are like, well, you know, you don't do that anymore, and we have to do this, and you've got a cushy number and blah, whatever people might think negatively. It's a hard job to manage people, because people bring personalities and conflict and personal life and baggage and ill health, and why shouldn't they? Because we're not robots. So as a manager, you've got to not only get your job done, but get the job done and keep everybody well.
Yeah, that's right.
And then, don't get me wrong, they've got responsibility too for their own well-being, and I'm all about ownership, but I think what you did there was great. It showed them this is how to lead, actually, and this is what it's up to you if you want to come with.
I think generally I got a lot of respect for those things, and I enjoyed working with that little team. It was good. Anyway, so sort of moving on from those little things, there was a big topic that you wanted to really discuss with me, and with everybody that's listening, which is Men's Mental Health Week.
Yes.
Which is between the 11th and the 17th of June.
It's Men's Health Week every year, around that particular time, a Men's Health Week, and it's run by the Men's Health Forum. Actually, it's a really good website to go to. I don't know if you ever heard of the Haynes Manual for cars, but they have a Haynes Manual for men, Haynes Manual for women as well. So it's a great website to look on, just the Men's Health Forum. So every year they run this campaign, Men's Health Week, and this year's theme is around diabetes.
Okay.
Now you might think it's a little bit of a departure for Sunflower Training to talk about diabetes, but it is connected to our work, which is around mental health and well-being and workforce well-being. And the reason is because most people know that type 2 diabetes is on the increase, and it's a lot larger to do with diet. Dr. Michael Mosley does a lot of work around diabetes and type 2 and lowering the blood sugar level, lowering sugar intake. And the connection really with diabetes and stress is that the more sugar someone takes on, the more insulin is released, and then with the biology of the body and the hormonal changes, it can tip someone over. Having too much glucose in their system that isn't being used, it can tip someone over into type 2.
Right.
So years ago, I mean centuries, like fight or flight, in the cave person times, not just a cave person.
I know what you mean.
PC. If we were in threat or in danger, we would have a massive surge of adrenaline and cortisol that would help us either fight off the dinosaur or leg it.
Yeah.
So now, when we get into a stressful situation and we release that the chemical of cortisol and adrenaline, we don't run away physically, and we hopefully don't have a fight. What we do is we internalise it and talk about it and vent about it and get really, really teed off about it, and it stays there. So all of those chemicals are in there. Then when we've got this excess glucose, especially if we're taking a lot of sugary foods, if we're not using it as an energy to fight with fight or flight, it hangs around in the blood.
Yeah.
And that's where the danger starts with for type 2.
Right.
And the problem is with the lovely men, the male, the gender, is historically men tend to be a little bit more overweight and are less likely to recognise it than females who are a little bit more weight conscious. They tend to smoke, and they definitely tend not to access a GP the same as women. Would you testify to that, Louis?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Like almost all down those routes, except for maybe overweight. I'm
Yes.
probably a little bit more than what I would like, but I'm quite
They're
healthy.
all good.
Yeah,
Absolutely. But certainly men don't have that, I won't say capacity, but the history of talking. And if we go back to cave person times again, you know, men went out and did real hunter-gatherer, but we, women, stayed back and we made community. And we were social creatures and we looked after everybody. And now we don't have that community, and that's I think why so many people get isolated. Single parents, for example, regardless of your gender, we don't just have that relative or that neighbour or that community in a small area to help. It's all you're on your own.
Yeah, and or you are almost relying literally on your small group of friends and family, and after a while, friends and family, they can almost get a bit like they haven't got the patience with you anymore, have they?
It's
so it's
short
almost like
term, isn't it?
That's right. You could do with someone just like like you mentioned the Samaritans, like it's just someone different to talk to.
Yeah, fresh ears.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Different perspective on how.
Yeah,
you
very
feel.
much.
So
Yeah,
I think that's
so
right.
so this is the connection between why I want to talk about the Men's Health Week, and it is diabetes. But so then we talk about stress is a massive trigger to an imbalance with that glucose, with what I mentioned earlier. I know it's sort of a bit sciencey, and I'm not a scientist, but I know those few facts in my circle. So, would you say, if I was to ask you, who's more likely to seek out someone to talk to, men or women?
Oh, women, I think.
Okay. We already established women tend to access a GP more. And we just want, we as in people in my industry, and I think anyone that's concerned about young men growing up, young boys growing up, we want to get rid of that, grow a set.
Yeah.
Boys don't cry, that kind of thing, be a man, that kind of gender talk, which prevents people from accessing help, because if that sort of talk is around, you're unlikely to say to a friend or a colleague, do you know where I can go to talk to someone because I'm really struggling?
Yeah.
They're just going to take the mick.
Yeah, that's right.
And we want to avoid that. We want people to come into a pub just like this and be able to say, listen, I'll be an hour. I need to go to the GP and pick up my antidepressants, or or whatever it is. That might be an odd statement to use, but we want people to be able to say, I am struggling, and it isn't just a bad back. I'm tired and I'm sad, without me being met with so that was my impression of a man.
Too bad, you want too bad.
Yeah, so that's what I'm about.
Definitely.
And with stress comes mental ill health. Even though stress isn't a mental ill health condition, you're absolutely going to be affected with low mood or teasiness or anxiety.
And I think it's a progression, isn't it? I think you was just saying there, you sort of mentioned it before, but like the stress that you have, and you mentioned about the cortisol and all that.
Adrenaline.
It all sort of, it can all build up, and just by having one stressful situation, and then the next day you're still carrying that over, and it's something small, but it becomes such a big thing, and then eventually over time you don't get out of the house, and then it gets even more and then you start eating more sugary foods, and then that's where you're saying it. That's where the stress can lead to this diabetes,
tilts you over.
And then ultimately into, I suppose, potentially quite a bad depression in some ways.
Absolutely, there are connections completely, and what you've just said there, you've articulated that really well in that order, really. And it's about being able to recognise that anybody is susceptible to this. And it's not just, it's the other people. I mean, how much do we hang on to stuff and ruminate? Sometimes you can have a bad day at work and then go home and say, God, you won't believe the day I had. And then you go to work the next day, you're all right. Well, actually, I'm still cross about that yesterday. But you're the one that's keeping it going. And you're the one keeping it in here. And unless you do something either physically active or relaxing that same day, you're not going to get rid of those chemicals. So what I would say is, at the end of a day, a stressful day, physical activity or something that gives you joy, something relaxing, because you're looking at releasing good chemicals like serotonin, like endorphins, like oxytocin, which is the love hormone. So kiss people, cuddle people, or pet your pets, whatever it is, and dopamine as well. So that's what you want to be looking at. Do activities at the end of a day that make you feel good, and find that time. We're very, very good at saying, I haven't got time for that. But I would say investing in yourself is priority. I say this quite a lot in my courses. I use the oxygen mask metaphor, where if you're on a plane and the
oxygen masks drop out.
They drop out, and you're the what do they call the cabin crew will say, right, when your oxygen mask gets down, put it on yourself first, not your children. And it's not like saying sod your kids. No. It's about saying, because then you're well, then you're all right to cater for your children. And that's what I'm trying to say to people is, you have to look after your own health, because no one else is going to do it for you. And if you've got loved ones or responsibilities, financial, physical, caring, whatever it is, you've got to be on point in order to do that. And what's wrong in putting yourself first? It's not about saying, sod you all, it's all about me and I'm going to do what I want, because that's ridiculous. That's clearly not what I'm saying. But for those people out there that say, I'm too busy, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, you need to factor something in the day for you.
100%. I think a few things that you've brought up, and I think, using myself as an example in some ways, I've had a couple of periods in my life where some of the things that you brought up, and I've noticed it since, and I've never considered myself as a depressing person. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but I've always been quite optimistic, always thought I've been quite full of life. But the job I was talking to you about before, I actually got fired from, and I worked really hard at it, and I got sacked, and then for the next few months, well, it probably drew on longer than that actually, for probably a couple of years, but I didn't really realise it. But at first I was just like, right, it's fine, I'll just go and sort someone else out. But after a while, it was like every night, it was like you'd wake up in the night and it would be, what did I do wrong? Why couldn't I have done that? Like
really?
this? Every night, almost every night, and then you'd wake up periods and you would be like, you just couldn't get back to sleep because you'd be thinking it over all the time.
So did you not get closure over that, Louis?
I think I did eventually. Yeah, I think I'm quite over it. I'm over it now in a lot of ways.
What took it? What was the way? Why could you not get over it?
I think because it was really personal to me. I mean, my family actually owned the company.
Oh God, so, it gets worse.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was a crazy thing. It was,
right.
So my family owned the company. So I started working there, and they said, "Oh yeah, we can train you up," because I'd worked there before. And they said, we'll take you on, we'll train you up and all that. But with everybody else that worked there, there's 200 odd people that work there. And I was just like, I can't come in with my name and just fly up the ranks.
Sure,
I felt like I had to prove myself.
Yeah.
And that's why I worked so hard. But then once you feel like you're banging your head against a brick wall or what have you, then that's when you make mistakes. And I made a big error, and I deserved. I think I almost left them in a position where they couldn't really. They had no choice. Almost, because it was just like, if he can do that, then why can't anyone else?
I
almost.
understand. Yeah.
So, but it was like, for me, it was just like, flipping out. I've done all this hard work. Where's that sort of recognition for doing that? So that played over for a long time. I think I actually held on to. I obviously get not disciplinary letter, but a letter when they say you're gone, official letter.
I
can't think of the name
I can't
for
think of the term, but P45.
Oh yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like a proper letter. Yeah. And I held on to it. I was like, I wanted to hold on to it and like put it in a frame and put it up on my wall and all sorts of stuff.
Cross.
Oh yeah, big time. And actually, it wasn't until my ex-girlfriend tore it up.
Good for her.
Yeah. I think looking back now, it was probably a good choice. She tore it up, and actually, that was a way to. I didn't want her to. I got quite cross with her about it, but it probably did actually help me out, and it's helped me sort of move on from that. It did, that was a few years after, and also with the exercise. I had my son and I stopped playing football, and I soon noticed it. And I've always been active. Like, I'm not playing football at the moment because I feel like I've got so much time, and I'm hoping that this is taking my mind away from anything anyway, and this has got my focus, so it's okay. But like with the exercise, it's something I've been still thinking about now. I've got to get back doing, because
and do you feel good?
You can feel it.
Exactly, and you feel good afterwards, don't you?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I often think when I'm talking about, and I'm asking groups of people, what makes them feel good, what makes them feel purposeful and fulfilled and joyful, and usually the answer is, well, not exercise when you're doing it, but afterwards. Like, so when we're actually physically in a mad run or doing something that's hard, it's not really enjoyable for most people. It's the after effects. So that's what makes us go and repeat it, because we know we'll feel better after.
That's right. Yeah, definitely. It's such a powerful thing to go out and do exercise, I think. I mean,
and it's because of the chemical release we're getting, and also the distraction and the focus on something else.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is why yoga's really good, because you're so concentrating and focused on holding a particular pose. As soon as your mind starts to wander about the beef at work, or
you're gone.
You're gone.
You're
Topple over, absolutely. Yeah. And also breathing helps with your being calm. A lot of mindfulness involved. So
I was going to speak to you. It was coming up in my head. It's almost like trying to find ways to meditate on things.
Yes,
and
exactly.
I mean, that's something I've kind of tried. I find it quite difficult.
It
is very difficult.
I agree.
Yeah, but I have tried, and sometimes it does. If you've got something going on in your head. I did it a lot when we put my son to bed. I'd always sit there in the room with him while he drank his milk, and I'd try and do it then.
Yeah.
And it's only 5 to 10 minutes, but it was, it sort of chilled you out.
It's a lovely thing to meditate on, though, isn't it? The most natural thing in the world. Yeah, no, it sounds beautiful.
Yeah, I thought it was a good time to do it, because I'm sitting there anyway, and I've got to be quiet. So I might as well try and quieten my own mind from whatever's going on.
And I like that term you've used, quietening your mind. That's a good term. But some people are scared of that, because if they quieten their mind, they start to think about stuff. And a lot of people want to keep busy because they don't have to think about stuff. But we shouldn't be afraid of quietening our mind and seeing what comes through. You can't stop things coming into your mind, but you can control what you worry about.
Yeah.
And I talk about that a lot in training. A lot of people think, no, I'm a born worrier. I can't ever stop worrying. And I would say, okay, if you can problem solve it. If you can't, it then becomes a worry. And when in the history of the world ever did worrying about something fix that problem?
That's right. You're just sitting on it, aren't you?
Yeah. So problem solve, yay. Worry.
Yeah. Okay, so obviously this all ties into this Men's Health Week.
Yeah.
So we
looked at diabetes.
Yeah. So how? Trying to think. So how does this then lead into sort of suicide's a massive issue with men at the moment.
Yeah.
And last few years it's been. I think it's on. I don't know the numbers, but it's on quite an increase in especially in sort of like middle-aged men, I think.
Did you? I don't know if you're aware, but Cornwall and Isles of Scilly have higher than the national average rates for suicide.
Oh, right.
And it's just beyond belief, really. I know somewhere has to be the highest, but I think it is a surprise to a lot of people that Cornwall, this most beautiful place, has such a high rate, and we do.
Yeah.
I wrote some stats down just in case we came to them, but they're not necessarily important. But we are looking between maybe around 70 and 90 people a year in Cornwall.
Wow.
Suiciding. And we've changed terminology. We no longer say commit suicide,
right,
because there's such a negative and illegal connotation, because it used to be illegal to kill yourself or attempt suicide, and you would be put in clapped in irons and sent to prison.
Crazy.
It is. Yes. So we now just we use the term suicided.
Right.
So or complete suicide. We no longer say commit. So yes, you're right about men have higher rates. It's more prevalent in men. Also that age range, and there are so many reasons why. So I'm going to just go to my notes because we talked about so much.
Yeah.
Poverty, one aspect. So we've got clutches of poverty, unemployment. For men especially, it's going back to that we don't talk. And how does a man who is known for being the backbone of the family, the breadwinner, holding everything together, how does that person say, I need help, please can someone help me? And I think it's so difficult. So we need to start with young people being able to say, coming through schools, that with emotional teaching, with what do they call it, emotional social well-being.
Okay, yeah.
Through school, just being able to say, this is how I feel and it's all right.
Yeah.
And getting rid of those gender stereotypes. And the reason I wanted to bring this up again today is because we need to try and reduce the rate to zero. And there's a massive campaign in the southwest called Towards Zero Suicide.
Okay.
And we took the model from Detroit in the States, where for about a year they threw every single resource they had, financial and other, into reducing that rate to zero. Instead of saying, let's just reduce it.
Aim for the ultimate goal.
Yeah, exactly. Because otherwise, is it like saying, well, some people are allowed, we'll allow, so
we'll allow
zero.
this amount.
Yeah, exactly. And we realise that actually, why we're trying to just bring it down a little, let's just stop it. And that's why these intervention skills are useful. There's a few around the county, mine's just one of them. And it's just about getting people to A, recognise the signs of someone that's in distress, emotional or other, and B, know how to talk to them and keep them engaged without judgment. So it's listening without judgment. And then C, signposting them on to help. And when I mean listen without judgment, it's none of this facial, oh, you want to think about killing yourself here, selfish, cowardly, none of that business. Even if it's what you think in your head, you own that's your business.
Yeah, and that's your perception.
But don't transfer it onto someone else.
Especially if they're in that sort of situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's a few myths around about, well, if I ask someone about suicide, it might plant the idea. It doesn't. We know from evidence, if you were to talk to me about how you're feeling, and I said, "Oh God, Lewis, are you thinking about suicide?" You're highly unlikely to say, "No, I wasn't." But that's a great idea. Mm-hmm. It's you either are there or you're not.
Yeah.
And so the more people that we train who recognise what to look out for, that's a good start. And it's not, don't worry, you're not going to be walking around looking at everything, ooh, and misreading signs. It's just about being aware that it's a possibility because things are bad, and it's about having a lack of resilience, a lack of support, and perhaps some chemical imbalance, but just really bad circumstances, and not being able to say, help.
Yeah.
And that's for men and women. But men do tend to choose more direct and violent methods than women. So maybe, and I don't know why that is, we can't ask them if they've gone, but maybe there's something around men are a little more final and impulsive and made a decision, boom,
bang.
do it.
That's what we're going. That's it. They've made the decision.
Yeah.
And this is what we're going for.
Yes.
It's sad, but I think there's something that's come up and that's come into my mind about it and about talking about it. Obviously, this seems to be the biggest. I think probably the biggest help.
Yes,
reducing and getting it down to zero.
Yeah.
And with it being, is it something that's taken a rise in the, say, the last decade or two, or is it something that's been quite consistent throughout, I don't know, the last couple of centuries, for example?
Yeah, so looking at centuries, I don't know. That's way beyond my knowledge, but certainly it has been on the rise over the last few decades. Yeah, it is going up, but circumstances have changed. So if we think about going through the decades, I'm not from Cornwall, I'm from the northwest originally, but we were affected by foot and mouth up in the northwest, and I know you were down here. You've also got things like recessions.
Yeah.
That hits the farming industry, then you've got mass unemployment as well, and so when you've got unemployment, you've got not only a loss of income, you've got loss of role.
Yeah.
Then you may have divorce, and then you've got another loss of role. And perhaps you have to separate the house, then you become homeless, or you're in a flat where your family are over there, and you've got no job, no family around you, very little support, and low income. I mean, it's just a massive cocktail of desperate situation.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, 100%. It's easy why, if you lose all those things and you feel like your whole life's like imploded, then it's easy how someone can get to that point. And if you're then indoors all the time, don't get out the door. I mean, but that's where something I was thinking about, because you're saying about, and the reason why I sort of brought up centuries, maybe not quite as long as that, but men used to gather in pubs almost every night, and as far as I'm aware, I mean, that's the way I could see it. So they would probably still have, the banter, I suppose, and stuff in the pub, but at least they were sort of together and talking about their work, and they were decompressing in that way.
Yeah,
that they would have a laugh with their friends, and
it's a really good way of putting it.
Don't do that anymore. You especially, I'm 29 now. A lot of my friends are getting married, and a few of us have had children. You're lucky to even go out and catch up with them once a week now.
But why is that then?
Well, I think it's a lot of this. It's several different reasons. I mean, like you said before, it's the culture's changed in a lot of ways, especially around sort of drinking as well. Just drinking in general. I mean, most pubs now are not that busy in the week, really. For example,
do you think the smoking ban has added to that? Not that I advocate smoking, but I'm just wondering,
Potentially. I mean, the smoking ban coming sort of, I probably was, when I was about 19, so I was able to go into a pub for about a year, roughly, maybe not even that, before it was banned, so it was hard for me to sort of...
But maybe the smoking ban, it might have got rid of some, but then created others to come because there was no smoking, so maybe it balanced out, I don't know. But yeah, you're right about the cultural changes, and actually thinking about suicide, it was illegal, and also there was a lot of religious connotation, so religion isn't as prevalent now, is it? So I think years ago, if you commit, I nearly said it, if you took your own life, you wouldn't be allowed to be buried in consecrated ground. And you would go to hell more than likely. So there was an awful lot of pressure about what you were allowed to do and what might happen afterwards. But when you talk about centuries, it took me back to the wars. So we had the First World War, Second World War, and that brought around what they termed as shell shock, what we would now call PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And we have in the southwest a whole military element, and we've got people coming back from the services, from being out in theatre, and suffering from PTSD and taking their own lives or attempting to. So there are so many things over the decades that have contributed, but I think now we're in a time where everything is accessible. The expectation to have everything that you want is out there from a very young age. Well, I need the phone, I need these clothes, I need this in my life because of peer pressure, and then I need a job, I need success. We're always told it's all about, run for success and fulfilling needs. And when you don't get that, there's a massive drop in expectation, and I can't have it, I failed, I can't do it. And maybe we've got it wrong somewhere along the line, and we've come too far.
I think there is a lot of I've felt the pressure. I've always wanted to, be successful in some respect. I don't think I've never really, apart from when I was like probably 11 or something, I probably was just like, that's the only time I really thought, I'm going to be a businessman, I'm going to make millions, and like, I'm going to be able to figure something out. And I soon realised that you don't actually need to do that. You can still be successful as long as you enjoy your life and you live, just manage to do what you earn enough to enjoy your life, really. And I think that's coming round because so many more people are setting up, and the facilitation of with the internet there is a lot of negative side effects with it, especially around with social media. There's a lot of positives in the sense that you can create your own lifestyle business and live to, and you can almost travel the world and just
virtually
earn enough. And you can do what you there's so much more opportunity out there, and I think we're going through this period now where people are trying to seek out the opportunities and understand that you don't need to, make a million to be successful.
Yeah. And that comes from media, really.
Yeah.
And a lot of the media, I say role models really loosely, that are out there for both men and women. This is what you should be aspiring to be. Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
Keep your own camp, follow your own path. That's far more, without sounding like a big tree hugger, but, following your own path is far more fulfilling and empowering than thinking, oh God, what are they doing, or should I be doing that? Oh,
yeah.
And that's maybe around some self-confidence and self-esteem.
Well, that's it. I mean, this is how I felt because I've been doing this since January. It doesn't make me any money at all, but it's something that's really building my confidence.
Yeah.
And I'm generally a confident enough person. I mean, I'm confident enough to start something myself. So, but it's not only that. It's the people that you meet. You're surrounding yourself with like-minded people, and I get to have great conversations with people every week, so I love it, and it's something that I think I don't know, it's building me up anyway, so
Good.
I think if other people are out there and they've got something that they want to do, no matter what it is, whether it's business or just something in their life that they want to do, they should try and go and go do what you need to do to get to that point, because it will open up doors and it will make you feel better.
And what have you got to lose by trying?
That's right. Maybe if it doesn't work out, you've just got a bit of a funny joke, a bit of a laugh to tell, as long as it doesn't end in terrible tears.
Yeah.
But
you're right.
So we talked. I mean, it's quite nice we're sort of transitioning into the sort of good side of things in some ways, which is sort of which is a good way to go, because we've talked about some quite difficult things.
Yeah, and you're right. We need to end with people realising there is hope out there and there is support systems out there, and actually what to do. So if you are worried about someone in your life, whether it's family, whether it's work or social, whether you just happen upon someone as you're walking the dog, whatever it is, if you are worried. What I would say firstly is it's okay not to be okay. So if someone is not okay, that's fine. Allow them to be not okay, rather than like try and jolly them along or jivvy them on and say, oh, well, don't think you've got this to live for, you've got those to live for. Never mind that, because they are little mini judgments. Just allow someone to have the I'm not okay. Allow them to feel that. But find out what's bothering them, what's going on for them, listen without judgment, and then support them in getting some help. So that might be about looking for resources, it could be a talking therapy, it could be a helpline, and look and signpost them to secondary care help. So just like a paramedic would, you are an emotional paramedic, you're getting them to secondary care, really.
So where have you got some suggestions for where people could send someone, so just so they've got some ideas of where they, if they are worried?
First port of call, I would always say to anyone, is get them to your GP.
Right.
Make an appointment with your GP, and hopefully they've got a relationship with the GP, but I'm fairly confident that if anyone presented to a GP and said, this is how I'm feeling, they would deal with it. The GP would do. If it's far more urgent and serious, if someone is imminently going to take their own life, without question, phone 999 and say, I'm with someone, they're talking about taking their life, or get them to A&E where they'll receive some immediate help. So, but stay with them if you're able to. Not just abandonment. But in having said that about abandonment, don't forget to look after yourself in this. If you've just done an intervention with somebody, make sure you debrief afterwards, or what you referred to afterwards about what did you call it? When you men in the pub afterwards.
Oh, like decompression.
Decompression, yeah. Make sure you get that off your chest and you talk about what you did. There's no right or wrong with this. You're just helping someone get help. And you're not responsible for someone.
Yeah, and you don't want to hold that on yourself either, because it's going to, like you said, it's going to hold on to into your body
exactly, yeah. So remember your self-care in this. So first protocol with GP, if it's less imminent. If it is immediate, which is probably rarer, but A&E or 999, and they will help you with what to do on the phone there, because they've had training.
Yeah.
And then in the meantime, I would really endorse helplines like Samaritans, any local lines we've got available. Cornwall actually has an abundance of resources. Not everyone realises. Just on a more tragic note, if someone has already taken their own life and it's affecting you and your friends and family or your circle, because the ripple effect is massive. If that's the case, there is a service in Cornwall called the Suicide Liaison Service, and they will help anybody that's been affected. It doesn't matter how long after, 2 weeks, 2 years, that you can go to them. It's completely free.
Wow.
On my website, I've got a lot of resources as well that people can go and have a look at, and they can download, and employers, for just individuals, so that's useful. And I would like to say also there's a film called The Ripple Effect that the Regal at Redruth want to show, but they can only show it if they've got enough people that buy tickets. It's organised by something called Fan Force.
Okay.
So it's on Facebook, or you can Google Fan Force, The Ripple Effect, and it's a film by a guy called Kevin Hines, and he is the best intel we'll ever get, because he threw himself off the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco and survived.
Yeah.
And it's rare that we get to ask someone what was going through their head afterwards, because he said as soon as his hands left that bridge, he regretted it. And how many people would that be the case of? And we would never know.
No, that's it.
So we have to assume, for me, in my head, with any intervention, we have to assume that person wants to live. They're just stuck. So the positivity in this is, ask someone how they are. How are you really? Not just, are you alright? Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah. No, how are you really? Talk to me. Non-judgmentally, open, cultural acceptance. Allow someone to talk. And signpost them to help.
Brilliant. Okay, so that's amazing. Even though we've talked about some difficult subjects, I've really enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If just to try and lighten it up at the end a little bit, if you are feeling, if yourself and you listen to this and you feel any down, go out and do something. Go out, just go for a run, go for a walk, go and look at some of the beautiful scenery that we have around Cornwall. Or like Karen said, talk to someone.
Really reach out to someone.
There's always someone to listen, even if it's a stranger in a pub. So quickly, just to finish off, how can people get hold of you if they would like to?
My website is www.sunflowertraining.co.uk, and on that website I've got an email address, office@sunflowertraining.co.uk. Just give me a call, even if you just want signposting, that's fine. Or drop me an email if you want some support. I'm happy to come and do free consultations, talk about what you need. If I can help, I will. If I can't, I'll post you to someone that can.
Brilliant.
But most of all, take care.
Yeah, fantastic. I'll try my best to put as many links and as I can into this in the
and I'll send you lots as well.
Oh, brilliant, that'd be amazing. So thank you so much, Karen.
You're
and
welcome.
Thank you
Thanks,
to
Lewis.
everybody that was listening. No problem. All the best, everyone. Cheers and gone.
There you have it. I hope you enjoyed it. It was some big topics in there. I know some difficult things to discuss, but I hope it was interesting and informative for you. And also, if you are struggling with some of these things, then I'm going to post a load of things in the description, loads of links, loads of telephone numbers, so that if you are struggling, then you can go and use those at your own will. And do go out and get out in the open air, and just have a little think about things and talk to someone. And if you want to talk to me, then please go ahead. I'm happy to be at the end of an email or at a phone call, if that would suit you. So just know that there's always someone out there to listen, that will be willing to listen. If you want to get hold of Karen, then you can find her at sunflowertraining.co.uk, and her email address is office@sunflowertraining.co.uk. And then the featured music this week was by Tru Collision, and the track was called Get Crazy With Me Tonight, and you can find them at their website trucollision.com, and also they are on Facebook and Instagram by searching Tru Collision. And then finally, thank you so much to the Weavers in Bodmin for allowing us to record there and sitting down in their pub and serving us a couple of drinks. And then very last thing, thank you from me for listening and or watching. And if you want to get hold of me, then you can, kernocast@gmail.com, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all at kernocast. You can find me there. We're also on YouTube, and you can find me, Lewis Pauling, on LinkedIn. So please leave some comments. Let me know what you think about anything, any of the topics that we discussed at all. Maybe you were interested in some of the things that I've said. Maybe you're interested in more about how you can learn some more stuff yourself about mental health illnesses. And maybe you're a business person that wants to implement some of these ideas that Karen has shared with us at the beginning of the show, and you could do with some help in your organisation. So definitely get hold of Karen for that. So thank you very much. All the best. Cheers, my dears.